All right, Carla, this is a recording now for, I guess, business development. Yeah. So I'm going to share my screen and I'll show you what I'm doing on this side. Okay. So here, I'm going to show you an interesting workflow, and it's a little bit counterintuitive, but I'll explain why I'm doing this later. Okay. So actually, I'm going to begin with our knowledge repository, which is in the Book of Vista Careers YouTube. Okay. So this is pretty much where we have decided to put all our kind of learnings and everything. Okay. So in this episode, I guess we need to first decide where to put our knowledge. So we should probably put it in, let's see, design and culture strategy. Right here, LPT, KM, design, sales, persuasion, negotiation. Okay. So we're going to probably put it in this category. And so this might be a really good place to construct an overall notebook. Okay. It has our entire history of everything that we've talked about in sales. Okay. So there's quite a lot of wisdom in this playlist there. But let's add this new chapter to the overall playlist, shall we? And we'll see how to include it. So actually, let me bring you over here on this Discord. This will be fun. Okay. So let me bring you over. Okay. Oh, like magic. Okay. Okay. Now we're on this same screen now. Now I don't have to count on the other side. Okay. So now you're in the video. Okay, so let's do this. Yes, okay, all right. Now I brought you over to a different screen. This is the screen where the video will be. Okay, so let's take a look at your case. So you've got a pretty high profile client right now, and they want to basically discuss about, you can see my screen right now, right? You can, yes? Oh, right, because I haven't shared my screen. I'm an idiot. Okay. Right, I need to reshare my screen because I've reopened your image on the web browser Discord. Okay, so let's kind of sign in and re-emerge over on this side. Okay, so you sent a message about. Let's give some context for the video here. So this is Wallace, and Wallace is a high-profile client, and he's important because he's going to bring some mega business over here. Okay, so, oh geez, okay, I guess I have to move this over here. All right, so let's take a look at it. Your escalation was about Wallace mentioned this, right? Does this look about right? Okay, great. So we have a secret shopper at Sarayu Brawa. Okay, HK has reported all as well and provided photos. Okay, that's fine. And Kelly, this is an easy fix. Okay. All right, so here's what I would see, okay? Number one, I read the actual complaint, and it does seem rather petty. Okay, I'm not sure if that's, okay, feeling unclean is one thing. Floor is sandy. Okay, loose screw in the shower. Bed sheets and cover are not clean. Ant found, okay, lots of mosquitoes. The site spraying. Insect spray is almost empty. Frog found in living room. Okay, guest will leave at 9 a.m. Okay, all right. So I've been doing this for a while, and I can say that those don't seem like negligence. Okay, in terms of housekeeping. So I'm not seeing, okay, loose screw in a shower. There's so many small items like all over the place. Okay, I'm not sure if a loose screw is really a serious, complaint. Bed sheets and cover not clean. That should be up to investigation to double check that. Ants do occasionally wander into a property. The way to keep out ants is simply to make sure that there's no food, but sometimes food could be, let's say, the dead mosquitoes. Okay, so this is just my intuition, all right? But I would say that those particular things, I could see how an inspection might not necessarily catch it or might not necessarily escalate it, okay? So that's just my first intuition on that. And I could imagine how on inspection photos, those probably would not be detected, okay? But that's not the point, okay? That's just kind of like really quickly to get to the heart of it, okay? So the point is more related to your response and your also determination at it, okay? Now let's go back to you, Kyla. how does this is more of a emotional process too, okay? So how does this situation make you feel when you first experience it? You have a client who is a secret shopper. Oh wait, let me do this to you. Let me interrupt you and see how you experience this, okay? So we can simulate, okay? All right, so I'll be Wallace and you be Kyla, okay? So Kyla, we just had a secret shopper go over to your place and they found some disappointing news. Sure, I would love to tell you more about it. Okay. Well, they found out that there was a dead frog and there was some sand on the floorboards. There's a loose screw in the shower and the bed sheets weren't clean. Plus, there's some mosquitoes there, and despite all the attempts to spray, there was no effect. And also, the spray can is kind of empty too, as well. Yep, that was pretty bad. I really wonder what you were going to do to compensate owners for this type of mistake. And how are we supposed to actually achieve our revenue if this thing happens upon a secret inspection? Hmm. 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 Nope, they haven't responded. That's the other problem. It was sort of like I had an AI response, but there was no actual staff getting to be fixed there. That's concerning because in my mind, a guest problem could be solved much faster if there's actually a person there to take care of it. But given that it is what it is, that wasn't very impressive. Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Well, you're talking to me, right? So yeah, you need to remind me that I've yeah. Mm. No, just keep in character. Stay in character. Stay in character. So you need to say, "Don't you remember you've stayed in this other property before and it was fine?" Yeah. Right. Okay. So remember. Okay. Let's stop the simulation for now. Okay. Who suggested that he test out a new property? Right. Why did you suggest that he should test out a new property? Yep. There you have it. There you have it. You can ask him how many people would even let you know that that was the case. Okay. So what you're selling to Wallace is that look, Singaporeans are not strangers to bad news. Okay. Anybody who has a serious culture of maintaining standards, I mean, they know that half the time things are not perfect. Okay. So that part is already a huge concern that is out of the way. Okay. So you can demonstrate your integrity right off the bat by saying, well, Wallace, I'm really sorry that in this particular case we weren't able to deliver. But if I may tell you, I mean, I suggested this inspection in the first place. So what I'm about to tell you is all honest, just the same as I told you last time, right? So you've already built up some credit with the client, okay? So ultimately, remember, this is the key. The key is that in any business, there is going to be defect. Okay, there's no business that has 100% non-defective performance. Here's the business logic that you need to understand as a person. Okay, So it takes infinite resource to get infinite, let's say, perfection. Okay, would you agree? If you want to get to perfection, you need to commit more resource. But ultimately, the person paying for that resource is going to come from the owner. Okay, they're the ones paying the salaries and all the particular parts. Okay, our commitment to every owner, once again, is to hit that revenue value. Okay, hit the revenue target at the best cost possible. So, what you need to actually say is the thing that you should remember from the business plan. There is a tolerance for overall, let's say, guest experience management from our side too. It should be between probably 4.5 to 4.8, okay? Because we've never had a record, and nobody has a record of getting perfect 5-star reviews. And even when we do, let's say in certain cases, it doesn't necessarily mean that we will all hit the revenue target. There are other factors that we need to balance. So today was let's say you're going to go and figure out what happened, and you're going to take the regular SOPs, and they need to figure out if the housekeeper was at fault or whatever. It could be a perspective issue on this one, okay? But what's clearly wrong is maybe the no response part, right? We have to figure out whether or not that was supposed to be the case, okay? Now, you can audit and check out the listing to see if this particular expectation is even correct, right? Maybe we have put in the listing that nobody will be there to attend during your stay, okay? If that has already been forewarned, then that's an expectation of economy service for an economy price, so to speak, okay? So do double check to see if that particular, okay, is held in place. And also if there's any, what do you put it? If there's any forewarnings about something like this happening, there could be a 100% Balinese thing on it saying that this is Balinese ownership and the nature part is part of the experience. Okay, so if you do see that, then that gives also a bit of a little bit of a heads up on that one. Okay, so that's I think it's important. We need to respond to Wallace about whether or not the particular items that he brings up is already covered in how we manage guest expectations, okay? So do check on that first, okay, before accepting blame, because you fail the idiot test if you've already forewarned certain things on the listing, right? Yeah, yeah, exactly. Focus on that, okay? So then the next point is this is what it would take in terms of a cost to make sure that there's no things there, okay? And this is the projected cost of that. Do you want every owner to pay for that, okay? And it would rarely be used, and it would be a large line item, and it would require extra management to get done, okay? So oftentimes that's the best way to manage expectations is say, yes, we can include that, but in general, that would go up on cost with not too much corresponding change in actually the overall review score. So this is why we maintain the levels we maintain. Our job is difficult because we have to maintain a investment grade asset across all kinds of different properties, despite whatever it is. Okay, none of our owners are of the type that continue paying for a property that doesn't make any money for them. Okay, so that's the kind of owners what we have. All right. Now there are owners who will gladly enshrine their properties and keep on accepting that their properties are never going to make a rupiah, right? But that they need to keep on paying for it. There's that type of owner too. Okay. So our challenge is to maintain standards while maintaining the revenue line. Okay. Now, currently, take a look, and you can ask Bella to analyze the overall performance and whatever of it, and it's on track. Okay, so this owner has no complaints to us, and in fact, this owner has given us more properties to manage. Okay, and they want to continue expanding. No. Mhm. Oh, don't talk about that. Don't talk about anything off narrative, right? That part is not the point. The point is he as an owner needs to make a decision. Okay, and the decision is we can fix all these problems just like anybody can, right? We're like a factory and you are the client, okay? You tell us what specification you want to hit, okay? And we'll tell you whether or not that is a profitable outcome or not, okay? If you want, we would be happy if you give us unlimited budget, okay, to hire all the best people to whatever, but that might also take away some of the budget that you would rather reward yourselves as profit to, okay? Because this comes as a line item. So we generally try to do this. We generally try to improve profitability through smart automation, through smart policies that have been gained through lots of information gathering and lots of experience. Okay, and so this is essentially the sweet spot that you see here. Not 100%. We've never said that we're 100%. Okay, most of these things they shouldn't interfere too much with the guest stay. I'm not sure about the answer or whatnot, but okay. Is that because it's dirty or is that because an ant crawled in? It's not Singapore, my friend. They haven't killed every single insect out there. So there's it's kind of hard to avoid any bug coming in. Okay, we're not talking about cockroaches. We're not talking about whatever, but it would be good to see what the visual is on some complaint like that. Now, for housekeeping response, you just have to check to see if the housekeepers were cleaning another property at the time. Okay, if they were, then they were correctly allocated. Okay, to look after another property, thereby passing on saving to whatever all the owners involved, because we can multi-use housekeepers. If the housekeepers are fictitious and reporting, I think, the operations incorrectly, then you need to say thank you very much. We'll compensate you right away for an inspection report. Okay, and we found out that the housekeeper was dishonest, and appropriate punishment will be done. Okay, but that's what we normally do. That's the correct protocol. Okay, long story short, sometimes we just have to try to delegate the right part of the job back to the owner to make the decision. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry that he didn't have a better stay. That would be good if we could actually have the same quality of standard as the branding property. I'm kind of embarrassed, but yeah. My God, how much money is he spending on this? Okay, good. Okay, right, right, yeah. Mhm. Okay, look, I mean, that's fine. I think this is a good way for him to gain experience. We could probably compensate him, pay him for a bad stay. I mean, that might be the correct thing to do. We surrender, if it's legitimate, right? And then we need to figure out how to pass that savings on to, or pass that whatever to whomever needs to be deducted. Okay. Now, the for this is why also we have shareholders, Kyla, okay? So shareholders should have something to lose for repeated mistakes like they don't fix things, right? So if a guest is experiencing, I think, a failure because a senior manager or shareholder isn't doing their part to lead us to where they go, then I think that guest should be compensated back, and that deduction ultimately is shared between the shareholder and the people who are, let's say, directly involved. Okay, that I think is kind of like bare minimum for guest upholder. Okay, that's why we have shareholders, because ultimately it comes out of my pocket, right? But if I'm the owner, whatever, I put a bunch of people in charge to invest in them, then I think it should come out of their shares for that type of case. Okay, if it's a flagrant case where there's mismanagement in terms of that, and we should be happy to pay, because if we can gain that trust back, then I think it's worth it. Okay, but ultimately speaking, okay. Oh God, yeah, that's awful. Oh God, that's awful. What the heck? Oh God, ouch. Okay, that's something. Oh, yeah, that's. Why would he stay in that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I guess he's seen the worst then. Yeah, that one's bad. That one's bad. Yeah, I don't know. Ooh, ouch. I feel like it's just a kick in the nuts. Um, it's oh man, that sucks. It's also on your name too as well. Uh, you know. Okay, well, let Furkan and Ghani know that that doesn't doesn't make you feel very good to have such a lowly ranked property. This is probably a problem with the staff there. Then I'm sorry to say. Yeah, well, that pretty much. This is why you got to let people go before that, right? Because ultimately, as soon as you see somebody holding us accountable, then it starts becoming like kind of a. Because people are always ready to, I don't know, people want to keep on driving on broken equipment rather than stopping the car, fixing it, and then driving on good equipment. I don't know. It's pretty much an ethos, an attitude. So yeah, well, hopefully all the shareholders eventually take in this through their own experiences. That by being too nice to people, you're just being unnice to yourself. And I mean, somebody has to pay for it at the end of the day. And why should it be you if you were the one that really cared to actually get the experience right? Right? It should be the person who didn't care. So ultimately, I think that's something that once again you learn and you become not so nice anymore, or you never learn and you just keep on going. Oh, okay, all right, it's fair to pay this for that and pay that for that. And yeah, it's kind of silly that way. Okay, this is part of I think what you would call brand education. Okay, so brand starts actually not from the outside; it starts from the inside first. It starts from us really thinking about what the brand means, what it is we want to do. But okay, in that particular case, I'd say he should probably refund him. I mean, it looks kind of like a sequence of yeah, and you should probably I don't know deduct from Chandra, right? Yeah, but you can't really deduct from Chandra anyways because he's not there. The only thing you can deduct from is somebody who's more permanent, and it has to eventually go to a shareholder because shareholders are the only people who eventually can remember the loss, right? Because this is the difference between employee and non-employee, right? Non-employee, you just hired them for their labor, so if they didn't do a good job, it's not their fault, right? They've already spent the time. Quality control is something that is deeper. All right. In this case, it looks like yeah, we should probably refund him and just say, hey, look, Wallace, this is what it is. I would do that. That would immediately show that we have. In fact, just do that right now. We'll figure out where the bill belongs later. Okay? Anyway, just refund him on that one because I think it's fair. How many days do they stay? One, two? Okay. Then refund him that one night and say, hey, look, we took a look at it and that's a problem property and we're going to terminate that housekeeper. We should have caught it earlier, okay? But we're really sorry. As you can see, the profile is Superhost and we're probably being too nice to this guy, right? Yeah, we're probably being too nice to this guy and we decided that this isn't worth carrying anymore, okay? So, yeah, yeah. So it's a Superhost profile. So, yeah, we'll just protect it. Okay, anyway, yeah, I would give him a refund. That would immediately give him a sense that we have character. No, 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 well, it shouldn't come from your pocket. Ideally, it should come from the people who are not taking the action in this pocket, right? So probably that should go. Well, it's not your place to pay that. Okay. Remember, if you keep on paying for it, then it's called perverse incentives, right? You're taking a hit for somebody else's mistake, so that person will never learn how to do it correctly. So it probably goes on Furkan's thing. Just tell him, hey, Furkan, why is this still thing, not right? And then ultimately he's got to decide, and probably cut short Fascia's promotion too as well because it doesn't make any sense. Okay. Anyways, just make the arrangement, and I'll go over to Billa to decide. How about that? Yeah, because she ultimately should be making the correct incentive planning for long-term alignment. You shouldn't volunteer to take a hit. Okay, don't volunteer to take a hit. I know how everyone's just trying to be nice to each other, but ultimately the person who didn't cover their segment. Remember, we invest shares in people so that they develop the right behavior, right? So you don't want to save somebody. You don't want to spare somebody the experience of learning what they really need to learn, because otherwise, what's the point? Okay, we do need to work together as a team. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Please process the refund because that one looks like it's a legitimate call. Okay? Yeah. Okay. And then just tell them that that's what Booga Vista does to maintain because we saw that was unright. But okay.